today I'm going to be talking about something that, yes, I know that Halloween is over, but you know what? It's too early to be talking about Christmas stuff. So I'm going to be talking about a Halloween-ish movie, but you know what? Just roll with me, okay? Just please. So I'm going to be talking about Tim Burton's The Corpse Bride. I really love this movie, and I have a theory that's been, around the media a lot. It's been talked about, and I'm going to talk about it and give my own opinions, and here we go. So I'm going to be talking about the character Emily, and maybe like who she is and where she came from. And just as a disclaimer, I'm not the originator of this theory. This theory has been going around the media for a while, so just saying that. I do not own it. I'm just giving my personal opinions, and I'm going to be tweaking some things about the theory with my own, words in there. Okay, so Tim Burton's The Corpse Bride obviously is about a guy named Victor. He's supposed to be getting married to this woman. Her name is Victoria Everglot, and her family is of like high society, and they're rich, or at least they used to be, but they're getting low on money, and to keep them from going into the poorhouse, they arranged the marriage between Victor and Victoria. Now, they hit it off automatically. They automatically fall in love like first meeting. But, Victor keeps messing up the rehearsal, and so he runs away to try to like get his stuff together, and obviously he ends up practicing his vows in the woods, and he ends up accidentally saying them to the corpse bride Emily, and then the whole movie unfolds. So I'm going to be talking about the character Emily as a whole. Now Emily takes Victor into we're going to call it the land of the dead for right now, okay? She takes him to the land of the dead, and we get a song giving a little bit of story behind who Emily, like how she died and why she's there. So we're basically told that she was young and she was beautiful, and she fell in love with a mysterious stranger who came into town, and she wanted to marry him. Her parents said no, but she ended up taking their money and her mother's wedding dress and running away with it anyway. But then when they were supposed to meet up, he ends up murdering her and taking all her money. And that day she vowed that if anybody were to ask for her hand, she would say yes. And obviously when Victor says his vows, it's a whole miscommunication. So, but other than that, we don't really get too much of a background on who Emily used to be. Like, we don't get who she was, and we don't get really when she died, or like how long it's been since she died. We just get, how. Now, there's some obvious things. She had to have lived in the town that Victor lives in, because her body is right off the edge of town, so she would have had to live maybe in the area. And then obviously because of the whole stealing money thing, we had to know that she's of money and high society. Now, there's only one major family other than Victor's that had money, and that was Victoria's family, otherwise known as the Everglots. Now, the theory goes that Emily was the first daughter, or the older daughter of the Everglots. Obviously, she ran away to get married, and then that would make Emily and Victoria siblings. That would make them sisters. Now, I think this theory is a lot of fun, but I'm going to add some of my own little tweaks, because people are going to address that if they are sisters, why don't they recognize each other in the movie? Like, why don't they, oh my god, like, why doesn't Victoria go, oh my god, Emily, and vice versa? So I'm going to address upon that. I'm going to theorize that Emily was the first daughter of the Everglots. Like, that they had Emily when they were younger. Like, when they were first married, that's when they had Emily. Right? Obviously, she grows up, she gets to marrying age, which back in the day, in the 19th century or whenever it's supposed to, that's when it says it takes place on the movie box. It says 19th century. They would have married early, so maybe like 16, 18-ish, right? Obviously, she runs away to get married, and she takes most of the money, if not all of it, right? So that could be a reason why, if they are sisters, why the Everglotts are poor. If Emily took some or took all of it, there you go. But, you know, back in the day, if you did something against your parents or against your family, you were disowned. You were thrown out. You would be not included. So basically, my thought is when she went to go with her mysterious stranger, that they disown her. Basically, that means she would be removed of any money and her anything that would be entitled to the Everglot name. So her name would never be mentioned. There would be no pictures, no certificates of there would be no evidence of Emily Everglot anywhere. She would never be mentioned because she's not existing in a way anymore. She's not associated with them. So that, I think, would be the major reason why Victoria would never know about Emily, because they don't want Victoria to end up like Emily. And obviously Emily wouldn't know about Victoria, because if it's been years later, she's been dead. How is she supposed to know that if her parents had other had other daughters? She wouldn't. She's been dead. So, there's that out of the way. Now, but there's some other small things that I think also could connect the characters, and I think would be a lot of fun if they did address the thing. First thing, a small thing that I just noticed because I just watched the movie a few minutes ago. Emily can play piano. Now, maybe when they were raising Emily, they let her have a little bit too much freedom. Like, they let her do a little bit too much of whatever she wanted. And that's why they want Victoria to be more, structured, and they want her to have more of a steady schedule, and they want her to live a certain way because, they didn't do that with Emily because they let her be too free. So Emily can play piano, and it's addressed that Victoria cannot play piano, or she's not allowed to play piano or instruments. So much passion, her mother says. Who do we know that's passionate and plays the piano? How about Emily? So maybe they realized when they made the mistake of giving the freedom of playing an instrument to their older daughter, they're like, okay, we got to scratch that with Victoria, so Victoria doesn't play piano. It's a small thing, but it would make sense, at least to me. Another thing is that I feel like we don't know when Emily died, but it can't be that long ago. It can't have been like some people, think she died years and years and years ago. But obviously it can't be that long ago because, spoiler alert, Lord Barkis, the guy who she was supposed to marry and the guy who kills her, is still around. He's still he's not young, probably like how he used to be when he first met Emily, but he's not an old man. He's in his middle ages, maybe his 30s or whatever. He's definitely older than Victoria. Don't get me wrong, but he's not ancient. So he's still around. So it can't be that long ago. So that's why I think Emily's only been dead maybe 10, 15, tops 20 years. And another thing I noticed is that the vows, when you get married, are still the same. She says about how Emily said that Victor said his vows to her perfectly. How would she know that? If she was, you know what I'm saying? Vows, she can't be that old because the vows haven't changed. If the vows haven't changed that much, because they're still the same, from when Victor was practicing his, and I guess from whenever she must again, because how would she know the vows if she's been dead for the if they changed them, how would she know what the vows are? So the vows are still the same. So there's that. I mean, there is obviously, because it's drawn by the same person and it's all Tim Burton, so a lot of the characters are going to look the same. So, Emily and Victoria, they both have like the slender face and they both have the big eyes and obviously the slender frame and all these things. But I think what would really connect the characters would be, it can't be a coincidence, right? That the Everglot family has been going down male after male after male after male, right? Like, it's been generations of father, son, father, son, father, son. And you're going to tell me all of a sudden that Victoria is the first daughter in the generation, and all this stuff with Emily happens just out of coincidence? No, that's not a thing. At least not in my eyes. There has to be a reason that all of this has to happen right then, right now, at that moment, together, right? So that's one of my major thoughts of why Emily is actually the first daughter and why Victoria and Emily are sisters, is that, little science, not to get too personal or too deep or whatever you want to say, but there is a thing that males have a gene. Sometimes males, when they have a baby, they can only produce the XX gene, which basically means you can only have daughters. You can only have a girl. And if Lord Everglot, Victoria's father, has that gene, that would make sense. Because we're never told whose Emily's parents are. But it would make sense if these two women just happen to be from the same... Like I said, it can't be all this stuff happening without a connection. Like, it can't just be happening out of a whim. It has to be happening for a reason. But it would make sense if Emily was the daughter of, Mr. Everglot. Because of the, daughters thing. Right? But that's just, that's just my thought, and I think that would be cool if they connected those things. And, I'm going to touch upon the ending a little bit, just to throw a little bit more of a theory in there. A lot of people get confused about the ending, or not confused, but it's left up for question. So at the end, Emily moves on to wherever you go after you die. Right? To the other side. Right? She turns into butterflies and she moves on because the only reason why she's stuck on Earth, like she's earthbound, is because she has the unfinished business. She wants to be the bride for once, right? But Victor sets her free, so that's why she passes on. But the whole land of the dead is left up for question, right? Because she's in the land of the dead. Is it the land of the dead, like where all dead people go, or is it purgatory? Because if it's purgatory, people like her who died under mysterious circumstances or have unfinished business, that's all that should be there, right? But if it's purgatory, then regular people who die of, say, natural causes, they wouldn't be down there, right? So... But it can't be the purgatory because Mayhew, the guy who drives the coach, he ends up in the land of the dead when he dies, and he dies a natural cause. He didn't have unfinished business, so he shouldn't be there. But he is. So, is it purgatory, or is it just the land of the dead? But if it's the land of the dead, I feel like because she's not exactly a spirit. That's the thing about the unfinished business. Usually when you hear about unfinished business and passing on, you talk about ghosts. But she's not a ghost. She's a physical person. Like, she's still a corpse. Like, you could still... You know what I'm saying? She's a physical being. So, she's... Is it purgatory, or is it the land of the dead, or is it one in the same? And if that's the thing, what is she moving on to? Like, what are there, like, layers of death? Like, what's the, you know? What's the hierarchy? Like, what's the organization here? How does it work? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. I mean, either way you look at it, she passes on, which is obviously great. You don't want to be in Earthbound with unfinished business, but it's a little confusing. But back to the sisters thing. I think it would be a lot of fun if, you know, Victoria and Emily were sisters, because it would link everything just that much more, and it even adds a little bit of drama when you think about it, because Victor kind of has a thing with both sisters, you know? Not that I'm saying he falls for Emily, but he doesn't, you know what I'm saying. But, you know, I don't know. But, you know, I don't think Tim Burton or the people who made The Corpse Bride are ever going to come out and say, oh yeah, that's what we were going for. It's like, no. And even if you did, you're only saying it because us theorists are saying it. You didn't say it 20-something years ago when you made the movie. Like, oh yeah, this is what we're going for. No. But maybe since Disney and it seems like Pixar and like that company are making a lot of live action stuff now, maybe they'll go back to that stuff. Like, maybe they'll get Tim Burton and a bunch of other stuff, like a bunch of other people like Henry Selick who helped direct those movies, to make a live action version, which would be awesome. And I nominate myself to play Emily, just saying, because that would be I've always, you know, if I was ever an actress, I would love to play that part. Agents, if you're interested, call me up. Even though I'm not British, but there's vocal coaches for that. But yeah, I don't know. But I think it would be a lot of fun, I think it would be really cool if they did make it where they were sisters. But that's just my opinion. But that wraps up this video. If you have any suggestions of what you want to hear me blabber on about, write it down in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!